all brand new, so we'll figure it out as we go.
Isn't that what we're doing this entire time? Just figuring.
Oh yeah. All right. Our Facebook is live up there, so if you guys are just now tuning in, we are figuring things out here. We're going to get the show started here real quick. Double checking to make sure all of our streaming sites are working correctly. We are on YouTube as well. Kind of cool. All right, there we go. Supposed to be going to Twitter too, so we're going to go check Twitter right quick. So there.
Hit them all, baby. Hit them all.
If you are live, shoot us a message. We'll make sure we got you.
First of all, I hear you guys turning pages. I'm assuming you guys are you guys taking notes, or you already took notes?
Definitely not me.
Dave's got to print out.
I got the second screen.
Friday. I'm not that pen and paper.
All right, we're good. So, like I said, we are the Trifecta Sports Podcast. This is the first time we've done a live show. So, appreciate you guys for tuning in. This is brand new, pretty much a site that we normally run our podcast through. So, it's all brand new to us. And we're just going to get here and get things going. Pretty cool show plan today. We are currently recording and streaming episode number 19 of our podcast. If you you can listen to our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast. Mainly those two is where we kind of keep things. That way everybody knows where they can go get it. We are streaming live, of course, for the first. It's going to take us a minute to get adjusted. We can cut up and make jokes, and I can easily cut it out in the end. I thought it might be a little bit easier to go live, maybe get a little bit more interaction with out there in the internet world. But pretty loves it. We've got a full slate of shows on fantasy football. So today our plan is through division by division, lay out the best fantasy in every division. We're going to start today with the AFC East. AFC East consists of Miami Dolphins, Buffalo. We also got who else is it? Somebody help me out.
Patriots and the Jets.
The Patriots and the Jets, yeah. Got put on the spot. Go ahead and give us a like on Facebook if you're watching on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. If you're not watching on YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel. This will go up on YouTube later on in the day once it's all done and edited and all that good stuff. But we're going to kick things off with players in the AFC East. What position group do you guys want to start with?
I think that is the most talked about. We got to go QBs first.
AFC East quarterbacks. I don't think it's a secret. Based on the rankings of ESPN, you'll see those scrolling across the bottom. Our boy Josh Allen. Josh Allen is the top-ranked quarterback in the NFL when it comes to fantasy. You can see last year we had 4,400 yards, 36 touchdowns, compared 15 interceptions, total QBR of 60.7. Pretty good dude at quarterback. Pretty easy to get, to throw his name out there as, one of the best in the league. Some people say he has the best arm in the league. Let's get some opinions out there. What do you guys think? He's obviously one of the best in the league, so he's got to be he's the best in the division, hands down.
He's the number one quarterback in fantasy. I think the question really just comes, how early do you want to reach for him? Because the passing numbers are insane. We saw that. But it's what he also gives you with his legs. Usually it's kind of one or the other, right? You can go with a Jalen Hurts, even Kyler Murray. They're going to put up good numbers on the ground, but you don't know what you're going to get in the air. And Allen gives you both. 763 rushing yards last year. I don't think anybody's coming close to him in fantasy again this season. But the biggest question is, how early do you go quarterback? Most people are playing a standard league, and those quarterbacks kind of fall. But, I mean, I think Allen's at least top 40 pick. I would even look at the back end of round 3 in a standard draft to grab him. Not any quarterback, but to reach on Allen, that's where I'd go.
Yeah, I was actually kind of caught off guard. I was just looking at one of my old Yahoo leagues from last year there in 2021. I mean, he was 1-1 out of everybody. And trend is going to be a lot harder for him to repeat that this year. Just looking at their schedule. I mean, they're going to Tennessee week 1 and 2, and their schedule is just highlighted games with out of division teams like the Bengals, Browns, Vikings, Chiefs, Steelers, Ravens, Titans. They're going to face a lot of good defenses. It's going to be interesting to see if they start more rather than him use his legs to try and preserve him against those defenses. I think he is arguably the first quarterback off the board.
I don't think it's arguable. I don't know who you could even consider taking over him in a fantasy draft.
No.
I think Mahomes is still up there.
I mean, you could put those two at the top easily. But, I mean, I'll be hard-pressed to find a draft league, what they're talking about, that doesn't take Josh Allen first.
Yeah. And you got to think Mahomes just lost. I know we're not doing Mahomes right now, but in that comparison, he just lost Tyreek Hill. And I know Mahomes helped Hill more than Hill helped Mahomes. I understand that. But there's going to be a little bit of something that he loses from not having him.
Shift over there.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking quarterbacks. Let's go down to the Dolphins.
Yeah, I mean, so the Dolphins have Tua Tagovailoa. Not the greatest year last year. Did rattle off 8 wins in a row. Tua's a guy he's kind of slept on, honestly. He just got Tyreek Hill from the Kansas City Chiefs. Here's Tua's stats from last year. We had a little over 2,600 yards, 16 touchdowns to 10 interceptions. The touchdown number isn't there, but I think that number will rise with the introduction of Tyreek Hill in there, along with Jaylen Waddle, and you have Mike Gesicki as well, and we'll talk about those guys later. But this is a year Tua has to perform, in my opinion, in order for him to continue to be a Miami Dolphin, and in order for us to keep talking about him really as a top quarterback in this league. If you put these quarterbacks in order in the AFC East, obviously I think Josh goes first. I'm going to put Tua at third behind Mac Wilson, honestly, or behind Zach Wilson and Mac Jones.
I agree that Tua is not the number one quarterback. I think he's a distant second. I would take Tua over Mac Jones. He's going to give you – I think he has the ability to give you more with his legs. He has better weapons. He's got what now is at least an offensive coordinator. New England has completely ditched coordinators this season. We'll see how that plays out. But the genius that some people say was Josh McDaniels is gone in New England. Mike McDaniel comes in from San Francisco. They had – all kinds of weapons. He created weapons out of every player he had. I think that's only going to help Tua, that versatility that he brings to the offensive side. So I have Tua as my second quarterback in this division. He's outside the top 12. I don't think he's drafted in a standard league unless he's a backup. He's got a little bit of upside, but there are several other quarterbacks I would take before Tua.
Yeah, from a fantasy perspective, dynasty league, I think like the 5th quarterback on my team, just because we have like 20 guys. I don't think Tua is the best quarterback on his team. I'll say it. Last year, Teddy B played in 14 games. He had 209 points. He had 191. So, and we all saw the duck that he threw to Tyreek Hill, that Tyreek Hill had to basically run back 10 yards to go catch. I think it was episode 1. I was a baker, I defend, and I think Tua falls into that same category where I think he has 6 games to prove to the next level with the weapons that he has, or else they're going to hand the because I think just from a career outrider is a dude that just fell into some very unlucky situations. But I would say Tua is not even the first best quarterback on his own team. Jones in front of Tua and Teddy Bridgewater and Zach Wilson. So
a lot of love for Tua Tagovailoa on the stream today. I don't hate the guy. I really don't. I think he's got more potential in him that we've seen, honestly. But as you can see, some of our viewers out there, Mr. T. Bell, not talk as well. Also, shout out to my brother Justin. Tua is hot garbage. That's good stuff.
I think the thing Tua has going for him, and Dave said this himself after just absolutely trashing Tua. He thinks Miami can push Buffalo for the division title. He thinks Miami's a playoff team. They've got a good defense. They've got great weapons. And if Mike McDaniel can take Jimmy Garoppolo to multiple conference championships, which I think Jimmy G's better than Tua. I do agree with that. But I think Tua has the best situation. And I think Zach Wilson is absolutely undraftable, unusable, whether it's fantasy, whether it's Madden, whether it's actual football. I think there's 2 quarterbacks in the NFL, let me take that back. 2 passers in the NFL last season that had a worse rating than Zach Wilson. That was Ryan Fitzpatrick. He attempted 6 passes. And Leonard Fournette, who was 0 for 1.
Leonard Fournette.
Those are the only quarterbacks that played football in the NFL last season that had a worse QBR than Zach Wilson.
Oh, that's funny. Leonard Fournette. Did you guys see where Leonard Fournette showed up to camp at like 280?
Yeah.
Poor guy.
Hey.
He'll get back down. Tyler says if they are smart, they're going to just use Hill with slants and screens, which he's going to take all the underneath routes and Waddle's going to go deep. That's pretty much what I think is going to happen, honestly. But Leonard Fournette better rating than Zach Wilson.
No, it was
That's
worse.
Kind of
but
funny.
One of the only 2 worse in the league.
Oh, okay. Well, let's look at Zach Wilson's stats from last year. 9 touchdowns to 11 interceptions. So, buddy,
he also led the league in sack yards. Was not sacked the most. Burrow had 8 more sacks than him, but Zach Wilson led the league in sack yards.
I mean, this dude's not very good, but he was a high quarterback draft pick for some reason. I don't know. That's what kills me about these drafts is because these people draft these not like Carson Wentz, for example. Pretty good years, kind of fell off the map. Those other guys, Zach Wilson coming from BYU, he's, didn't really have a lot of good competition. And I'll be honest with you, we just talked about Tua. Alabama quarterbacks, other than Jalen Hurts, hasn't really panned out that well.
I think you could say any Alabama quarterback hasn't panned. I mean, when was the last time you heard about an Alabama quarterback winning the Super Bowl?
It's been a while. Couldn't even name you the last one. If you can name the last Alabama Super Bowl, please leave us a comment. This might be the funniest comment.
Oh,
Appreciate it.
that was
Bill.
great.
Oh, y'all don't know the story about Zach Wilson hooking up with some of his mother's friends. It's pretty public, honestly. So let's just we'll end that conversation right there. How about that?
Oh, I got one good one here. The best comment I saw on it was that Wilson went from playing with Cougars to laying with Cougars.
Oh my goodness! All right, so here we go with.
All right, let me throw something out there. Hey, this is interesting. Just some quick stats for you. All right, had a rookie stat line where they threw 2 more interceptions than touchdowns, and in 3, or they won 3 games their rookie year.
Okay.
Coop.
Do what?
Do you know who it is?
I do not.
Peyton Manning. Granted, he had a little bit better years, 28 interceptions, and the Colts went 3-13 as a starter.
He did
just
throw
write
a
the
lot of
book off.
interceptions.
He did. I mean, I think he still has the record for as a rookie.
He does.
So we can't write off Zach Wilson yet.
But the gap there, Brett Favre, right? A great quarterback. I don't know if he's in that all-time great conversation. Has the NFL record for career interceptions. Like, you can be good and throw a lot of picks. It happens. Tom Brady, I think, threw like 14 last year. The problem is he only threw 9 touchdowns. Manning threw 28 picks, but he had 26 touchdowns. Wilson's not even getting you a score a game. Like, you can't have that out of a quarterback. Your defense isn't holding you up in New York. Like, New York is really bad. I want nothing to do with Zach Wilson. From a fantasy perspective, I'm taking high upside backups before Zach Wilson. Give me Teddy Bridgewater. Give me Baker Mayfield or Sam Darnold. Give me Drew Lock or Geno Smith. Like, I mean that. I would rather have either one of those guys because if they start,
you would rather have
better numbers.
Drew Lock.
100%. No question.
I think I would for Drew Lock.
He's not getting drafted. I mean, you could have a 12-team, 2-quarterback league, and I'm not putting Zach Wilson on my bench.
Well, that's what we have on the Bush League is 2 quarterbacks. Matt Reed with the comment says they don't win. Talking about quarterbacks from Alabama quarterbacks, they don't win because they draft so high and their teams are terrible. They end up having to start right away. What do you guys think about?
I mean,
there's
just
a lot of truth to
what
that,
I just said about Peyton Manning. I mean, the Colts went 3-13 his rookie year. He was throwing, the great ones, kind of can withstand that. It ran a organization, had some help, had some other guys come in, but Joe Burrow.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think Joe Burrow he's different. He's an enigma. There's some guys that just drafted. Some people have it, some people don't. Like, you take Joe Burrow and what he did in college, the fame he got, the crowds he played in front of, the competition he played, and how he handled his poise anywhere, on the field, off the field. He knew exactly what he was doing at all times. Zach Wilson has no freaking clue tomorrow at practice. That's the difference.
Yeah,
that's the difference.
I think the thing with Alabama,
some people
kind of like
different.
Yeah. And the thing we're kind of talking about with Miami, like, they have a great supporting cast around him. When Alabama plays another team, 95% of the time, they are better at every single position. So when you have an A.J. McCarron back there, Tua Tagovailoa, they don't have to be better because their receivers are better, their running backs are better, their O-line's better, they have a better defense to support them. So because that cast is so good, they have easy throws. They have more time in the pocket. They have a bigger threat on play action. They have a defense that makes the other team play from behind and keeps their offense off the field. Like, I think all those things make Alabama quarterbacks look so good because they're so successful that they don't have the pressure. They don't have to make the plays that you do in the NFL. Alabama is too easy for a quarterback, is what I'm saying. They're so good that quarterbacks have it easy. And then, like the comment pointed out, they turn into high draft picks where it's not easy anymore. It's not easy to play quarterback for the Jets. It's not easy to play quarterback for the Bengals, but Burrow wasn't out of Alabama. He had hard times. He had to play Alabama. He had to play Georgia.
Talk about,
and he was also like a 26.
Yeah.
AFC East was blessing us. Now we're going to go talk about Mac Jones. He wasn't a high draft pick. I mean, granted, he's still a first round, he's a late first rounder. So where do you guys rank him?
In this, the second.
I've got him third. I think he's high teens if I'm drafting for fantasy. He's going to put up some consistent numbers. They're not going to win you weeks. And that's something to remember about fantasy. This is my approach. If I'm looking at a guy in a 2-quarterback league, I would probably take Mac over somebody that's boom or bust, that has these huge weeks and these down weeks. Like historically, you look at somebody like Fitzpatrick, he'll go out and get you 350 yards and 4 touchdowns. The next week, it's 120 and 3 picks. Like, I would rather have Mac Jones, who's going to have less points throughout the season, because it is a week-by-week game. Those booms don't help you as much as that consistency helps you. So I think Mac's draftable as a backup because you know what you're going to get in that bye week. He's going to give you steady production. I don't think he's a starter in fantasy. I think he's the second most talented quarterback in this division, and he's the third fantasy pick for me.
So wrapping up the conversation in the AFC East, obviously Josh Allen is a no-brainer draft pick, probably a high-round draft pick in even single quarterback leagues. If you play in a 2-quarterback league, he's probably second type of pick. If you're a keeper, you ain't getting him as a keeper. We play keeper leagues. He's not even going to be in the draft pool in ours. I don't even, it's like, if you redraft every year, 2-quarterback leagues. First of all, I want to say this: if you don't play 2-quarterback leagues, it's kind of fun. So I would recommend just that's something different along the way. It's a little different, and you have to strategize a little into the draft and value certain things over others because, you can get 80 to 100 points from your 2 quarterbacks. Don't draft good quarterbacks. Other people are. And here you are sitting, that points every week. It's a 2-quarterback league. So Josh Allen, obvious number 1 pick out of this division. We think Mac Jones is probably a, tier 3 quarterback in terms of rankings in this actual division, but maybe a second ranking when it comes to fantasy potential. We can all pretty much guarantee that Zach Wilson won't be taken in many drafts. If I had to guess, it would be less than 20% of drafts, and we're looking at BYU fans drafting him probably. But and then Tua, I think Tua will get drafted in quite a few leagues based on just the receivers he has. To me, like Coop mentioned, that boomer bust. I think Tua has a boomer bust potential. He might be a good pickup on a bye week on the matchup. That's a good strategy to use, in my opinion, with Tua. But with that being said, we're going to move on to a different position. We're going to move on to running backs. Running backs in this division, I'm going to say it. They're pretty, opinion. I don't see a ton of great help on your fantasy team with running backs. I say maybe the most intriguing to me. I'm going to start. The most intriguing is the Miami Dolphins. If you look at the Miami Dolphins depth chart, we have Chase Edmonds, Raheem Mostert, and Myles Gaskin. At one point in time, all 4 of those individuals would have been drafted most fantasy teams. Nowadays, nobody knows. So when you look at this draft, this depth chart was the word I'm trying to say. I mean, you look at the weapons that the Dolphins have. You have Tyreek Hill, that's not Devontae Robinson, Lynn Bowden Jr. If he's going to be healthy or not, we don't know. He's a sleeper, honestly. That's just me being a UK football homer. I think being in the backfield a little bit as well. But their offense, in my opinion, even if Tua or Teddy here is going to be to throw them the football, I think you're going to see a lot of in the PPR leagues. I think picking from the Miami Dolphins is probably not a bad idea. My running backs from the Miami Dolphins is you have no idea what role it's literally like pulling fish out of that one that's going to hit that week. It reminds me a lot of the old New England Patriots running back stables during fantasy. Like I always had, you don't draft the New England Patriots running back. But what do you guys think of the Miami Dolphins running back situation? Obviously, it has Chase Edmonds here as number one on the depth chart, but that doesn't mean mostly people are running back by committee or two running backs at least. But let me get some thoughts on the Miami Dolphins.
Don't touch them with a 10-foot pole. You got to Chase Edmonds, Raheem Mostert, and Sony Michel, who were all timeshare backs last year. Well, Mostert did hurt. And then Gaskin put up the most fantasy points out of the four and in Miami. So I would say this one's going to be they're going to beat them. And if you need a guy that might get you 5 points, that's probably where they're going to spot. But I wouldn't touch any of them.
Yeah, I think there's only two guys you can even consider, and the highest upside they have is flex, right? None of these guys are an RB1, RB2, and that flex is going to be on bye weeks. I think Edmonds has a role. He's going to be the pass catcher, right? He could see 60, 70 targets, but if they need short yardage, they have an above-average tight end and two guys that aren't going to get stopped on slant routes, right? They can pick up short yards without that running back. He's the guy for that if they use it. I just don't know how much usage he's going to get. And I think I think Mostert is going to lead the team in carries if he stays healthy, but that's been his problem his whole career. He moved over with the coordinator. He's second on that depth chart. He's their 1 and 2 down back, but he's 30 years old. He's got injury problems. And if he goes down, I don't think anybody's going to take over a 3-down role in his absence. So I'm on the same boat as Dave here. I don't want any of them, but those are the two names. They're 1 and 2 on the depth chart, but those are the two names I think have the best potential to be relevant.
I think you're also going to be able to pick these guys up throughout the season, with injuries, depth chart problems on your own team, and also any weeks and things that you have to work around. By game 4, 5, or 6, your things are going to shake out, and you're going to see which one's going to get the most touches, especially in your PPR leagues with, catching the ball out of the backfield. Like league nowadays, if you can get a guy that touches the ball, 20 plus times a game, chances are you're going to have high amounts of those guys. And that's kind of my strategy. These guys is I'm probably not going to. I mean, some of these guys are going to get drafted. I mean, that's just in high numbered leagues when you got 16 to 20 roster spots. These guys are going to find her, but at the end of the day, you don't know which one's going to hit until probably week 6 or 7, whenever the schedule picks up and usage and all that stuff takes a hit on the roster of everybody. But with that being said, about let's move on to New England. Our boy Damian Harris, probably that group has been for a couple years. Almost 1,000 rusher last year, pretty big deal in the NFL, especially in today's time with the two running back by committee. 15 touchdowns. That's a pretty good number. Over 200 carries. I think a stat one time where running backs get 200 carries in a year. So 200 carries is a good number for when you're looking at drafting running backs, because they're going to get their opportunities. Now, what they do with those opportunities has a lot of factors and a lot of within that. But at the end of the day, Damian Harris is a solid fantasy pickup. Probably not an early pick. I would say flex play at best. Probably not going to be in running back 1, maybe not even a running back 2 spot. But you never know. I have high hope for him. He's a Kentucky kid. So we're always going to show a little bit more love toward Kentucky kids on this podcast. And if you don't like that, then you can just not listen.
Yeah.
But,
Frank, you tell him.
just listen.
Oh, I've got him a little higher than that. I think he's a back end RB2. He usually falls in those late teens to me, right around 20, because of that touchdown upside. The only thing stopping him from being, way up in that conversation is Ramondre Stevenson is good. And they don't keep him off the field just because Harris is a little bit better. And it's smart. That's smart business in today's NFL. Running backs don't last. If you have a good one, if you have 2 good ones, there's no reason not to do that committee. There's no reason not to protect your players and extend the longevity of their cheap contracts, because running backs get paid nothing nowadays. But I think he is in that 18 to 20, 22 range. If I draft him as my running back too, I'm okay with it because I probably invested a little more at receiver. But 15 touchdowns, like you said, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I would assume that's like top 5 in the NFL in rushing last year. I think James Conner was above that, probably Jonathan Taylor, but there's not many names that jump out at you as scoring more than 15 rushing touchdowns. And Belichick is usually loyal to guys until he thinks they're going to start declining. And at 24 years old, I think 24, 25, Harris is still pretty young. I don't see that change happening yet.
Yeah, we talked about Ramon.
I'm not going to add.
Go.
I'm not going to add anything because I think Coop nailed it. Ramondre is going to handcuff. If you're going to draft Damian, you better draft Ramondre. Handcuff him as quick as you, because that's what Bill does. You don't know who Bill's going to play. He's going to play the hot hand, so you better get both if you're going to get one.
Yeah. So here's the stats on
split.
Yeah. 133 for Ramondre last year, and then Damian with 202, I believe. Not as many yards, not as many touchdowns, but I would say that's a strategic than him being good enough to put up those numbers. He might be a third down active back, and Damian Harris might get the ball within 25 yards of the goal line most of the time. Damian Harris also has a tendency to break one off for 25 and take it to the house too. I've seen him do it multiple times. But when it comes to fantasy, I would assume it'd probably be a good idea, like we said, to draft both of these running backs at the same time. Chances are, if you draft Damian Harris, mid, I would say, what do you think? Round 7 to 10, I would think. Do you think he'd last that long in most drafts?
It depends on your scoring and everything. Standard scoring, he's going to go higher. PPR, you might be able to get him in that 7th round range. It really depends on the type of league you're in. But I think Stevenson, like you said, definitely a handcuff. But I wouldn't even hate him as a deep flex. I've got him like 35 somewhere on the ranks I did. So he's outside of that flex range, but I think he's a fine person to have on your bench. And if you need to plug him in, you can, because there's so much upside if Harris does get hurt.
Yeah. Tyler in the chat says he always avoids drafting Patriots running backs, and that's something I've already mentioned once before on this show, and mentioning the Miami Dolphins, how their running back room is kind of building towards being the same as sort of what it used to be with the Patriots. I kind of follow that same strategy too, T-Bell, honestly. I couldn't name me the last probably Rex Burkhead was the last Patriots running back I ever drafted. And you end up not playing him. So, most part, pretty good value there with both Ramondre Stevenson and Damian Harris in your fantasy leagues. Like we said, if you're strategizing and you're wanting to pick one or both of those, handcuff them together. Anywhere in a PPR, Coop mentioned earlier, if you wanted to get either one of them for, normal formats, you probably need to take Damian Harris a little bit sooner. We don't think he'd last very long. Now we're gonna go to the.
We can't do it like that though. He is the PPR king as running backs go. Hurt all last year. He's still on the PUP list for this year. Next, if he is healthy, and because Belichick's going to play him, because that guy loves him. He's going to catch a lot of check downs, and they're probably going to go for touchdowns.
Well,
I think that the reason drafting Damian Harris works this year is because the days of James White may be coming to an end. I really think that, running backs do not usually come back from season-long injuries, at least to the same level of performance. I mean, you've seen so many guys just disappear in their prime. And I don't remember. Do you know what James White injuries was? What he actually had last season?
I have no idea.
But anyway,
I don't draft.
You've seen better running backs than James White, like Devonta Freeman. He was a top 10 running back for Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even think he missed a season. He got hurt and disappeared. He's a backup somewhere now. Todd Gurley, running back 1 to nowhere.
Yeah,
and
sucks.
These guys today, 28, 29 years old, like they're James White age, and they're done. And I know the usage is a little different. Like you said, he's a scat back. He's a check down guy. But just the wear and tear that gets put on a running back, especially when they're in a smaller body like him, it's really hard to come back from those injuries. And when he's got 2 healthy horses in the stable, I don't see James White getting the same usage.
Yep, you are exactly right there. I think moving on to the other quarterback or other running backs in this division, one of the more interesting pick rookie Breece Hall from the New York Jets. Here's his stats. He's a drafted rookie. What was he, a second round pick? I don't remember what round he was. What do y'all have that information?
Yeah, he was. I think he was like first pick in second round.
Second round pick. Out of Iowa State. Just take a look at it quick. He's almost 4,000 yards rushing in 50 touchdowns, 82 receptions. For almost, you're climbing that mark receiving wise. And in today's NFL, that's pretty good. 56 overall touchdowns in his career at Iowa State. That's pretty big production there. And a lot of, over here to the NFL, but if you're the New York Jets and you get an athlete like that, you're going to use him, in my opinion. You're going to make Zach Wilson's poor life a little bit easier when you throw those check downs out of the backfield, a pretty good running back. And also you got Michael running back. This guy, here's just stats from last year. He was a feature back, wasn't he, Coop? Big North Carolina guy.
Yep.
He was on the depth chart. You have 147 attempts, not quite that 200 that we're looking for in terms of for a running back 1, running back 2. But I think this is another handcuff situation. What do you guys think?
I think for me is I get stuck with a terrible first round pick, 8 or 9, and all the big names are gone. A top 10 or top tier wide receiver, and you're going to hope that Breece Hall falls to get your first running back. I don't think
your RB1 in round 1.
No, I'm saying if I'm RB1, but I'm saying he's like second tier. The way so I'm saying if I have a late first round pick, and running backs are prime, I'm still going to get a wide receiver that's going to score more points than go try and target Breece Hall in the second round.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah,
it
makes sense.
It's a handcuff situation because Tevin Coleman's there. That guy produces. And, Michael Carter had a pretty good year. He was top 30 running back for the worst offense. So I was a little surprised when they went and got Breece Hall, because Michael Carter, I wouldn't touch him. But I'll probably, be the one to take Breece Hall and early. Eat my words there.
Yeah. I'm high on Breece Hall. I'm not going to have many shares of him in fantasy. I think he's probably the best running back in this division. I don't know if I'm taking him over Damian Harris, not because he doesn't have more potential. He could definitely have the best season. There's no question there. He could score 100 more fantasy points than Harris. But like I said, I'm the guy that likes to go week by week. I want consistency. I know what I'm going to get out of Harris. He's been healthy. Belichick has actually trusted him to carry more than 50% of the touches in New England, and that's something I would invest in over Breece Hall. But there's a metric, in these rookies that are getting drafted, and I don't remember the exact details, but only 2 running backs in like the modern era have scored higher than Breece Hall in that metric. One was Ricky Williams. The other was Jonathan Taylor. So he checks every measurable. He had insane numbers in college, 3.940. He led all running backs in vertical, in broad jump, in long jump. Just an explosive athlete. He's got 3-down skill set coming in. It's not something where they, were questioning it when he shows up, which was a question with Jonathan Taylor, who's now probably the best running back in the NFL. So I think if you want to spend a lottery ticket on a running back, Breece Hall is your best bet. I'm not that guy. I don't like to take the risk, but I think he could go as high, like Dave said. He could be at the back end, 12-team RB1, drafting him at 12, 13, somewhere outside that top 10. Not a stretch for me, but I personally am not taking him there. I think Carter size hurts him, 5'8", 200 pounds. I don't think the Jets want to invest in that as their feature back long term, because we just see how we just talked about it with James White, how brutal this position is, how hard it is to hold up.
Yeah, I'm going to be quite honest with you. I don't know that unless I'm strapped for position, strapped for backups. There's not many in this division that I'm going to go like. I've marked him off my list. There's not many that I'm going to be like, hey, I want this guy. It's going to be, hey, I got to. It's not that I don't want him. It's not that I wanted him. It's that I don't have him. That's kind of my strategy with the AFC East. We're kind of running back thin here, but what we're not thin at, check that transition, is our wide receivers. Wide receivers in this division, there's some heavy hitters in this division. Just if you just look, the ticker across the bottom of the screen, you've got Stephon Diggs right overall in the NFL. Tyreek coming in at number 8 from Miami. 2 top 10 running backs in the league in this division. I think there are other ones that we may not even discuss today that might pop up. Let's start with those 2. Let's start with our boy Tyreek Hill. Last year, Tyreek Hill, City Chiefs. Obviously, we all know who Tyreek Hill is. He's the cheetah. He's one of the fastest NFL players in the history of ever. And the dude just put up numbers: 12,000 yards, 9 touchdowns. That's a little low in my opinion. But he played with the Kansas City Chiefs. I expect that number to go because he's going to be a priority receiver for Tua Tagovailoa. I can see that number being in the 12 to 13 range, in my opinion. He is going to be sharing the field with Jaylen Waddle. I think both of those guys, you're going to see both of those guys score double-digit touchdowns. That's my hot take. What do you got? What's your guys' opinion? I mean, what's the outlook for Tyreek Hill in 2022?
Be tough. I don't.
He's just like tough. Dave said it'd be tough.
You want me to take it, Dave?
Yeah, you go ahead.
So I think Tyreek Hill is going to have a good season. 1,000 yards, probably 10 touchdowns, maybe. My thing with Tyreek is that I think his stats, like you're going to be able to blind resume Tyreek Hill and Jaylen Waddle. You're not going to know which one's which. So I'm not paying for Tyreek Hill at his price because there's not a player in the NFL that has a closer skill set to Tyreek Hill than Jaylen Waddle. So if you put them on the same team, same offense, and you have the number one corner and the safety shaded over to Tyreek Hill's side, I like Waddle better. Waddle's ranked, I think, 16th in wide receiver rankings. Hill's 8th. I just think that the gap between them is not 8 spots with the gap between the players that fall there. Does that make sense? You know, you got what I think Keenan Allen and someone right behind Tyreek Hill, and then Waddle's back in the mid-teens. I don't think Hill has a huge drop, but there is obviously a big difference between Mahomes and Tua. And there was other great receiving options in Kansas City, right? I mean, you had Travis Kelce putting up 1,000 yards for 6 straight seasons now. Mm-hmm. So I think I got nothing against Hill. I think he's a good draft pick. Probably that wide receiver 1 fringe. I think he might end up the season closer to that wide receiver 2 mark, but I also think Waddle falls there as well. So for the price, I'm taking Jaylen Waddle.
Yeah, in my opinion, it's you can't look at as a proven commodity. He is what he is. He's fast. He can run the slot. But he had Patrick Mahomes throwing it to him. The guy had an absolute cannon. Documented. Tua throwing it to him. So that's, and like Coop said, he's got Jaylen Waddle. So I don't see him. I see his production dropping off. But I think I said he's going to do punt returns and more kickoff returns. The reason why he signed his deal there to get back into that stuff. So we all know that he can make. But I think his receiving stats are going to go down. A 4-headed running back monster. So you think they're probably going to run it to try and give Tua, and then he's got to distribute it between Waddle, Hill, and Gesicki. So I think his stats go down. I think he's still going to be a wide receiver every week, but it's going to be tough to see how many balls that Tua underthrows him.
One more thing to point out. So you had Mike McDaniel in San Francisco last year, and that really all they had as far as receiving went was Debo, right? I mean, he had a great
rushing.
Right. So with 2 of those options, like San Francisco wasn't a pass-heavy team. They were a Debo-heavy team. And he averaged 18 yards a catch. Hill and Waddle have that potential, but they don't have that. I don't think they have that quarterback. I think Garoppolo is better at throwing that deep ball than Tua is. They're not going to get that average. And there's 2 of them, so that volume is split. He only had 77 catches to get his 1,400 yards. So I just don't know how that equation plays out when you put 2 people that I think are really a lot closer in talent than people realize in Waddle and Hill.
And you got a first-year coach. I mean, that's no how he's going to play it. He could go super aggressive and put all his poker chips on the table, say, it's going to be my league, or he might go super conservative to try and, prove he can be a long-term coach. I don't know. It's going to be fun, though.
It's really up to Brady because he's running this franchise next year.
Yeah, if you haven't listened to those conversations, go back and watch our previous episodes on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Coop is adamant that Tom Brady will be playing Miami Dolphins, or Tom Brady is going to be the general manager of the Miami Dolphins. He wouldn't be, but Coop is adamant it's going to be one of those. Moving on up the coastline here, we're going to stop on the way. Who you guys want to go with next?
We'll get New York Jets out of the way because that'll be brief.
So here we got Elijah Moore, New York Jets. Not terrible. I think, if you're pinched for a flex play, I think last year he was a pretty decent go-to. Again, you never know with Zach Wilson. If he comes out and does anything worth a crap, then, you might find something eventually. I don't know. That's about all I got to say about that. Don't pick Jets players in your fantasy league. How about that? Let's just.
Oh.
There's our advice for Jets players. Just don't. You're wasting a draft pick.
It's one of those things.
You might be able to pick their defense. You might have a really, really good kicker. Do they have a good kicker?
No,
I don't know.
idea.
We don't pick kickers, so I don't know.
I think it's. It really depends on the size of your league, but I think there's value to be had in the Jets because if things work out, if Zach Wilson gets a little bit better, like they have a lot of talent. I think Garrett Wilson's extremely talented. I'm not paying rookie wide receiver cost. Rookie wide receivers are always overvalued, in my opinion. Some of them hit. Jamar Chase, he was a hit, right? And you look at Jaylen Waddle, you hit on him. But there's probably 15 of those guys taken in fantasy drafts, and so many of them don't. So I'm out on Wilson. I think he's going to go higher than Moore, may even have a better season. But for the price you're going to pay in a fantasy draft, give me Elijah Moore. The last 3 games the guy played before he got hurt, 18 catches, 260 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Like, you give me 6 catches and what is that, 80 yards a game? That's fine. I'll put you in my flex spot. Like, I can handle that production. So
especially
I think he's
leagues,
the better value.
In deep leagues, yeah.
Definitely. We play a 3 wide receiver league. We have 2 flex spots. Elijah Moore can be a flex option for sure. I don't think he makes your wide receiver 3 conversation, but he's somebody to definitely keep on your radar. If he goes undrafted, make sure you add him to your watch list. I think in most leagues he would be a late round pickup.
Yeah, for sure. Another.
I think they all get.
Go ahead.
I think Dave. They both get drafted. They both get drafted for sure, in my opinion. For a 12-league team, you're going to pick up Wilson and Moore. And I think the side for them is the Jets are going to be down in a lot of games, and Zach Wilson's going to have so the opportunity is going to be there. It's just, is he going to throw it to the other team or not?
It's a great point.
When I mentioned not to draft Jets players, she said even Uzama. Obviously, we're Bengals fans. I love CJ, or I love Uzama. I wouldn't even have drafted him if he was on the Bengals.
Yeah,
we'll talk about tight ends. We'll talk about tight ends in a minute. But tight ends in this division, especially, with decent ones. But tight ends are a lot of times an afterthought unless you get a top 5 tight end. If you get anything out of them, it's kind of a bonus. Tyler, David and Tyler here said upside his Jets will probably show every game. So they're going to play huck it, chuck it football. We're all on the same page when it comes to Jets players. Really quick on Garrett Wilson. This is the kind of player they're getting out of Ohio State. 2,200 over 24 touchdowns altogether. Had a rushing touchdown thrown in there, but it's not bad. It's not going to. When you come from a place like Ohio State, who had how many receivers drafted in the first round? They had at least 2. They had a lot of receivers drafted. Let's put it that way. I don't know the number. Him and Olave or Olave. They're both dudes. And
they probably have the number 1 receiver next year as well.
Yeah. But we went through Tyreek Hill, Jaylen Waddle, Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore. When it comes to the Patriots, this is about the guy that they got. What else? Who else are you going to pick to throw on this list?
I'm not picking another Patriots receiver.
This guy, for me, number is what kind of concerns me a little bit. When you have 866 yards, you almost, you catch 100 balls almost and almost get 1,000 yards. If you got 2 touchdowns, that means you're not being targeted in the end zone. Part of that, in my opinion, I think is maybe heavy run. There was a game where Mac Jones threw the ball twice. The NFL. That doesn't happen.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was like 40-mile-an-hour winds, though. That one off.
Still, you think Josh Allen 40-mile-an-hour winds?
We're playing the Bills.
You think if Brady's still there, he's throwing 2 passes?
Oh, I'm taking the day off, boys. Damian, go in and miss the game.
That's what they did. But yeah, Jacoby Myers is probably the only player that's going to catch a football other than Hunter Henry, who we'll talk about, that could even be mentioned as a possible draft pick. Number, I believe, will go up. I do like the yardage, the average 10.4 yards a catch. That's pretty significant. He's a guy that's going to creep up 100 catch stat. That's pretty much it for our wide receivers, honestly. You had 2 big ones in there, 3 big ones if you count Jaylen Waddle. We have Tyreek Hill, and then who else was it?
Well, we got to hit Buffalo.
Yeah, you're not
we
even
haven't hit
give
Buffalo.
One quick thing on the Patriots.
The top receiver.
Yeah, I forgot the best one.
I think
my problem is I don't have the graphic for him. See, I'm pulling fixed. Your boy forgot to get to Stephon Diggs. He's just self-explanatory.
Everybody knows about Diggs.
You know who he is.
One name on the Patriots, Devonta Parker. I was a huge Parker fan for the first 5 years. He let us down. He just can't stay healthy. I think the talent's there, but I've had him on so many fantasy teams, and designated IR spot every year. So best wishes for Devonta Parker. I believe he came out of Louisville 7 years ago, first-round draft pick. He just has not been able to get that full season under his belt. So I'm staying away from him for that reason. But like you said, yeah, Jacoby Myers is the only wide receiver I want from New England.
Yeah, so, Tyler wasn't going to let us forget about Diggs either. That's one guy that we forgot about. But, we're going to talk about him now. Obviously, Stephon Diggs is, in a league of his own when it comes to receivers in this division. Receivers in the NFL. The dude is the number one option for arguably the best quarterback in the league. I'd say Josh Allen is probably a front runner for next year. He's probably going to be on the Super Bowl. Now, I don't want to say favorite, but betting odds for them to win the Super Bowl is going to be in the top 3, in my opinion. But Steph obviously going to be probably a first-round draft pick in most leagues, second at latest, I would say. It depends on if you guys go running backs heavy early on. Not really a ton to talk about him. He's going to, barring any injuries, God forbid, if he makes it through an entire season, that team is scary. You guys have any other receivers that from the Bills that we should mention alongside of him?
I think the variable here for me is Gabriel Davis. I think but it's going to be interesting to see with that offense how much he actually does get. Because, Josh Allen's either going to sling it, hand it off to Singletary, or he's going to run it himself, or he's got Dawson Knox. So this could be a good bench guy. Might fit him in a flex but I like him. I think he's a good player. Just I don't think you're gonna have him. I think he'll be available on the waiver wire for most leagues.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's going to get drafted, and he plays a very similar style to Diggs. They're both big play receivers. He had that massive game in the playoffs, and now we're just wanting to know, that's the last time we saw him. They lost that game after that insane performance. 200 yards, 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Can he repeat that? Can he get anywhere close to that? Obviously, we don't expect it week in, week out, but I think he's got a lot of potential, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him have 200-yard games during the season. They're not coming every week. Another guy, Tyler called it out in the chat here, Jameson Crowder. I've had Jameson Crowder as many years as I could. I love the guy. He's quiet. He doesn't do anything flashy. You can watch the game. He doesn't stand out, but he is so consistent when he's on the field. If Jameson Crowder plays, he's 6-7 catches, 60, 70 yards. He may get a score. Like, that is so essential for fantasy football, especially in like a PPR league. That guy's getting you 15 points, and you're getting him in the 15th round. Like, I love having those guys at the end of my bench. I don't want the guy that may have, a 25-point game or may have 5 the next week. Give me a guy like Crowder that I can plug in there. I know what I'm going to get. That's how you win from week to week. So I think Jameson Crowder is an upgrade on Cole Beasley. He's going to play that same role. Beasley was definitely relevant in fantasy last year. The same issue that Devonta Parker has, though, has been an issue for Crowder. He does have some injuries. He's missed time, I think, in 3 out of his 4 seasons so far. But he's probably the one wide receiver on this team that I'm going to target just because of the value and where you can get him in drafts. Not that he's the best. He still probably falls 3 out of 3 for me in rankings. But based on draft value, Crowder's the one I'm going to have more shares of.
Yeah. So we've got our fill of a lot of the positions here in the AFC East. And we're going to kind of wrap up today's show with our tight end. Now, we all know the end all be all of a fantasy league, but there are a couple in this that could help you. And I'm going to start with probably the best one, in my opinion. That's Dawson Knox. Dawson Knox is a huge asset to that Buffalo Bills offense. You see it here, almost 50 receptions, 587 yards, 9 touchdowns, 12 yards per catch. If you're not drafting Travis Kelce, Darren Waller, Mark Andrews, end of list, George Kittle, you can probably throw in there a little bit too. That's the end of the list. Everything else is going to be up and down. You might have a hot streak where Dawson Knox catches five touchdown passes in 3 weeks. I think in order for the Bills to be successful, that he's going to have to be a big part of their offense. With that being said, he is going to get a lot more looks based on the other weapons they have around him. I don't think their run game is very good. I don't think there's a lot of things going on with their run game up there in Buffalo. Do we even talk about their running backs?
No, you skipped those as well, but we were letting you slide.
Oh, running back. Oh, we ain't.
First live. We didn't want to call the producer out.
If I screw up,
Oh,
I'm clicking a lot of buttons on this size, fellas. This is honestly, if you like the layout of the podcast now, with the live stream, all this moving and all the graphics popping up, going away, that's something that I've learned how to do in the last 48 hours. So if you do like it, I would like to continue to do it. If it's of any value to anybody. I know we've been on here for an hour and 3 minutes. Some people have been on here the whole entire time. Shout out to Tyler Bellamy, keeping us on our toes here. But going with Dawson Knox, we'll get back into our tight ends real quick. Get back on track so we can wrap this thing up. Dawson Knox, big player for the Buffalo Bills, probably in my opinion the best Gesicki, but I mean you compare the two. There's really no comparison. More, but less yards, less opportunities.
You forget
inferior quarterback.
Guy Frank.
Who we got, Dave?
Yeah.
Hunter Henry. So he's calling out.
They had the exact same points in PPR last year.
Oh, there he is, Dave. What do you want to say about him?
Well, you're saying Dawson Knox.
I wasn't there yet.
Mike Gesicki are the best.
I like them both. I'm not drafting Hunter Henry.
I think you can have the same conversation about all three of these guys. They fall a little differently for me. I have Gesicki first, Knox 2, Henry 3rd, but they're also 10, 11, 12 in my overall tight end ranks. I think they're all good from somewhere between 50 and 60 catches. They're in that 6 to maybe 800-yard mark. I don't see any of them hitting 800, and they're going to get you 6 to 8 touchdowns. Like, all three of these guys are going to put up really similar stats. I'm not a guy that drafts tight ends early. If you're not getting the top 3, like Frank said, it's not worth it. So wait on them. Let somebody draft a backup tight end before you get your starter that scores just as many points. Like, these are the guys that are going to be on my team. Cole Kmet's the only other name I would throw into this tier for Chicago, especially with Allen Robinson gone. But we'll touch on them when we get over to the Bears.
Duh, Bears. Switching gears here away. There's a couple of good pickups here. T-Bell talked running back drafted into Buffalo. We didn't talk about Buffalo, so here's our opportunity to wrap up the show with that. We talked about Damian Harris and all the other teams. I just forget Buffalo's up there, honestly. But they're probably going. I guess that's
talking about the Super Bowl favorites for the AFC.
Yeah,
loaded AFC.
They're pretty good. Let's talk about that, fellas. The Bengals have one good year, and all of a sudden, let's just say, hey, we ain't letting that happen again.
I don't think that's what it is. I think everybody still thinks they're the favorite in that division. They're going to the playoffs, but Buffalo was a rule change. Yeah,
I don't think though. They're not a Super Bowl favorite in my opinion.
No, I think they're going to win their division.
They're going to the playoffs.
Oh, I can. Yeah, I can see that. I mean, what happens if I don't know? They're going to give us a run for their money. I don't think the Steelers have a shot. I don't think the Browns have a shot. The Ravens are going to be the guys that I think that can spoil the fun because they're going to have healthy running backs this year.
Buffalo was a rule change away from probably going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
you're right. Kansas City won that game. You can, flip a coin for who's better between those two. They play 10 times. It's probably 5-5. I'm leaning Buffalo. I like that team better than I do Kansas City. And I think Buffalo beats Cincinnati and goes to the Super Bowl if that happens. So I don't know how you couldn't make them the favorite, especially with the offseason they had. I mean, picking up Von Miller was huge.
Yeah.
Like that's a big name. That's a championship guy, just got a ring. And with the defense they already had, you don't need him 3 downs. He can be a locker room leader. He can be a 3rd down guy, situational guy. So I think all they've done is improve, and it was a really good team last year. Into that improvement, they drafted James Cook. They've been a running back by committee for a few years now. The running back you want in Buffalo is Josh Allen. I mean, that's kind of it, point blank, right? Almost 800 yards rushing last year.
That makes sense.
And they're going to have a 1 and a 2. They're going to have a passing down back and a short yardage guy, but he just gets so much volume that I don't want the other guys on my fantasy team. There's value there. I just don't want them.
Yeah, and that's where I get confused. Zach Moss was the guy early in the season. He struggled a little bit, and then Devin. It's a running back by committee. I don't know where James could, but Cooper nailed it. The running back you want in Buffalo is Josh Allen. As the Patriots, if you're going to get one, you might as well go get the other. The second running back, go get the third one off the waiver wire, because that's probably where it's going to be interesting to see what happens in Buffalo, but I wouldn't invest in running backs unless it's a absolute have-to situation.
Yep.
Well, fellas, we're about to end. We're going to wrap up the show. All the people that showed up, watched our live stream. This is the first time we've ever done it, but we hope you liked it. It was cool. I'm really, really hoping it got recorded. So when I exit off here, we've been using another website. Had a lot of problems with connectivity issues and things like that. Hopefully it's smooth. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it and it was tell your friends about it. We're going to try to do this. We do it just about every week. Sometimes it's not at the same time every week or same day every week because, we do have lives. And we're not professionals. We just like to talk to each other in sports. And one thing we really like to play together is fantasy football. It's one of our biggest things we do as a friend group. Shout out to the Bush League at the commissioner and for Jacob Connor.
I gotta say
co-commissioners. Co-commissioner is, and then I'm the tiebreaker most of the time. So, to me, my opinions on a lot of things.
Frank just decides his football and everything.
Yeah, that's because nobody likes you, Dave.
Yeah,
you always try to ruffle. He's a feather ruffler. That's about all he's good for. And for sending stupid and unfair trade requests. That's what Dave does. So,
hey.
a lot of our content from here on out is going to be fantasy football related. Every division in the league for weeks on end until the season starts. Once our fantasy football, we're going to kind of give you the breakdown of how our league is going, what our teams look like, maybe give you some things that we've figured out. Honestly, you can watch all the ESPN stuff you want. You know, Jacob Conner, the guy on the screen right now, is one of the best fantasy football players I've ever played against, honestly. Not to blow smoke up his tail, but the dude is he's a numbers. He literally finds the diamonds in the rough you're looking for, and you're looking for somebody to give you that information. Jacob's the guy. He'll draft somebody in the 5th or 6th round that you're like, are you kidding me? And then he'll 10 points a game for you and help you win your league. So we do bring some kind of value, even if we don't talk about it all the time, but we may mess up all the time. I've missed a whole position group. I don't have anything written down. I'm not that kind of guy. But this is literally off the top of our head. This is just us bull crapping and having a little fun. We hope you guys enjoyed it. Tune in next week. I'll make sure to let everybody know when we're back on live. You can catch us on YouTube. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. We're trying to grow that thing as much as possible. Like us on Facebook. Other than that, you guys got any parting last words?
It was fun. Let's do it again next time.
All right, guys. Like I said, we love you guys. Peace. Subscribe to all of our stuff. Tune in next week. We'll let y'all know when that's getting ready to happen. Love y'all.